Hey guys, amazing. What's going on? I hope you guys are having a great Tuesday. I know I did. Sorry that we are I did state that the live stream was going to start at quarter of 11 and it's almost was 10:45, 11:15. Yeah, it's almost going over a half hour, but hey, had to work some bugs out. Um I apologize for my tardiness. I know I always plan on wanting to start early, but fortunately, I was starting on CP time. It's funny too because I tend to criticize the blacks for being tardy, and here I am being tardy. But hey, better now than never, and we are here. So, um, and looks like I guess this is perfect timing considering no one has joined the show yet, but we will start anyway. This will be pretty brief. I'm not really gonna get into. I'm not really going to um, prolong the broadcast for too long. I just wanted to touch on one specific subject. And before I do that, um, the midterms are coming up. Okay, it is imperative that you that you let your voice be known with your vote. Okay, very, very, very important. If you want to change the way this country is right now, if you're sick of the very things that are affecting you and affecting your family, then you have to be the reason. You have to be the catalyst of change. All right. You can't sit around and complain. You got to get out and voice your opinion by exercising your vote because if you don't invoke it, you will revoke it. And if you revoke it, then you get the type of government that you get. And you can't really complain about it because you chose to sit around and do nothing. All right. If you want to make America great again, November 8th, you got to get out and vote for the very public servants that will serve their constituents, mainly Republicans, and not just any Republicans, real Republicans, not the rhinos, not the ones that are Republican in name only, that are looking to just hop on the bandwagon of a party just to gain votes. I'm talking about the politicians who are looking to solve the very problems that you deal with every single day. If you guys care about your money, if you care about your family, if you care about your family's safety, then and also if you care about if you care about your safety abroad, you need to start putting the very people who care about the very things that you deal with on an everyday basis to work, and you need to vote for those very people who have those very concerns that you have at hand. All right, so get out and vote November 8th. I have a good feeling that November 8th will be a red wave because uh obviously the progressives have taken over for 2 years, and people alike, conservatives and liberals, are have sat back and experienced this, and we won't have any of it. All right, and I highly, highly, highly encourage that you guys get out and come to the polls. None of this mail-in voting because you don't know for sure if your vote will count. If you want your vote to count, come to the polls. All right. Show up, vote, so you can be able to then show out and say that you voted and vote for the very people who are looking to stabilize this very country. Okay, so with that being said, hope you guys see the topic. Women leadership, is it needed? You guys tell me. Do you need women leadership? Now, if you look in the Bible, you know that there's no excerpt in the Bible where you have women leadership. There is a hierarchy. There's God in Christ, Christ over man, man over woman, woman over children. That is the hierarchy. All right. It is the order of God, and that's the order that works. So it is not within, if it's not within the biblical terms to lead, then does women leadership work? Well, you have to also look naturally. Are women naturally born leaders? When the going gets tough, how do women react? Do they react logically or do they react emotionally? Well, the far latter will say that these women tend to react emotionally. If a woman is under pressure, the woman tends to fold. She can't handle the pressure. And then she tends to bolt and then try to leave the man to want to deal with the issue at hand. So it is not really within a woman's nature to lead. It's more of a woman's nature to follow. And because of the leadership that you see among the women, is the reason why anything that a woman is in charge of, like whenever you see women in charge of men, um, those men tend to be weak because the woman doesn't necessarily lead with logic, she leads with emotions. Women are emotional creatures. Do you really want an emotional creature, especially a woman who is menstruating, to want to lead men or lead a company of men? Something to think about. I know I wouldn't. No way in the world I would ever have a woman lead my company unless the woman takes the role of a man. In order for a woman to have, in order for a woman to lead, she has to have the mindset of a man. If she comes in with the mindset of a woman, it's not going to work at all. And to prove my point, you have an upstick of crime rising in these very cities. Okay. And I want you guys to take a look. I want you guys to take a to take a look at an example of what women leadership leads to. For instance, let's take an instance here in in a clip, in a news clip that is coming from Boston.
Saturday, community leaders are saying enough is enough. The first deadly shooting happening in Dorchester on Baird Street. Police say they received a call at 1 a.m. Saturday. They say when they got there, they found a man with life-threatening injuries. The victim is now being identified as 36-year-old Daniel Sanders. The second shooting happening Sunday in Mattapan on Fairlawn Avenue. Overnight, the victim was identified as 33-year-old Jasmine Burrow. She was found with several gunshot wounds. Community leaders are outraged.
Enough is enough. The community is absolutely traumatized by death after death after death.
Boston police ask if you have any information on these recent shootings to give them a call. So far, no arrests have been made. Live in Roxbury, Brianna Borghi, WCVB News Center 5.
So you just seen one example of that. And so that is one example in Boston. Uh the mayor of Boston is Michelle Wu. And ever since she has taken over, the amount of crime has risen. Everything from drugs to homicides have risen in the city of Boston. Here is another example. Now, this video, for some reason, has here's James. How you doing, sir? Mr. Rodriguez. Glad that you're able to tune in into the show. Um, Now here's another example of um of a news clip in Chicago. Now I have to tell you, for some reason it was blacked out, but I want you guys I want you guys to listen to the audio. There's no video here, but I want you guys to listen to the audio.
Near Clark and
Oh,
Cornelia
okay.
around
Oh, never mind.
12:15 Saturday morning.
Never mind.
The other attacks both happened early Sunday morning. One happened around 12 a.m. Sunday near Clark and Roscoe. The next one was about an hour and 15 minutes later near the Taco Bell on Addison. In each of the attacks, robbers forced victims into a car as they were walking down the street. After that, the victims were driven to another location and robbed of their cell phones, wallets, and other belongings.
Being kidnapped, it takes this to a whole other level.
Brian Comer, president of the Sheffield Neighborhood Association, tells me they've been tracking the rise in crime closely in this neighborhood. The number of violent crimes in Wrigleyville reported to CPD is up so far this year, with 32 incidents reported so far in 2022. That's compared to 24 by this time last year. Robberies in particular are up as well. 17 robberies have been reported so far in Wrigleyville this year. That's compared to 9 by this time last year. However, according to CPD data, 2021 was lower than previous years. Comer tells me CPD is working hard, but they don't have enough manpower.
And they are working 6-7 days a week, and they are at their max. But right now, we just don't have enough officers on the street, and that's something that the city needs to address, right away.
Police said in one of the robberies, the attackers forced the victim into their car at gunpoint. Fortunately, none of the victims were injured. Now, Alderman Tunney's office also told us they're asking CPD to increase the number of officers here in the 19th district. They're also asking for more officers in Lakeview for the upcoming Halloween weekend. And Erica, at last check, police had no one in custody.
Now, that was in Chicago. And that incident happened around Wrigleyville. So that actually happened around the stadium that the Chicago Cubs play in. Amazing. And the mayor of that city is Lori Lightfoot. Okay. We all know Lori Lightfoot to be a Democratic female. And not just that, she's a Democratic female lesbian. And this is exactly what is happening in Chicago. Now, let's move to another city. I believe this one is in St. Louis.
Go in on the shootings from today. 2 teens were hurt in 2 separate shootings in Northwest. One of them happened near a recreation center on Otis Place.
That's where we find our Matthew Torres. He's live to walk us through the most recent wave of shootings and what community activists say needs to be done to stop the violence. Matthew.
And Leslie, it is here at the recreational center where witnesses say a high school student ran to for help after being shot, and after yet another violent weekend in D.C. There are questions whether or not the city and its initiatives to curb gun violence is actually working.
A violent 48 hours in D.C. Monday morning alone, 2 teens and a man were injured in separate shootings less than an hour apart in Northwest.
It won't stop. It's like we're always waiting for the next crisis.
Unless the district deals with the root causes such as trauma and poverty, LaShawna Thompson-Ellis says the cycle of gun violence will continue.
And so you can't just do things on the surface or for show. You have to like really do the deeper, more meaningful work. And that is the part that I think we're missing.
She's the executive director of Peace for DC. Mayor Muriel Bowser recently honored the group's Peace Academy, which further trains and equips violence interrupters. While there are programs in the city, Thompson L. feels there's still not enough being invested into solutions.
They need the resources and the tools to be able to do that. They need more than just the title and the salary.
It's been years since the city implemented violence interruption strategies. A DC auditor report in June says while there's been success in the job training and employment program, there's still no evidence on what kind of impact violence interrupters have on high crime communities. Mayor Bowser addressed questions on this last month.
I hesitate to say it's 100% right, and there's strategies that we have to correct and improve on. But what I know is that they are engaging people who are known to use guns.
It's time to evaluate these programs and let's see if they're working or not, instead of just like assuming.
Okay, that was in DC. All right, a couple more to show you. Here's another one in St. Louis. I believe this is the one in St. Louis.
So on this one, Eden.
And Calvin, this
Yes,
happened
this is
at a
the one for
performing
St.
arts high
Louis.
school this morning. There was an exchange of gunfire before the gunman was stopped by police. Video shows students coming out of the building with their hands in the air. Police say the shooter is believed to be in his 20s. He was armed with a long gun. Along with the teenage girl and adult women who died, at least 6 others were taken to the hospital with either gunshot wounds or other injuries.
I seen my friend have all blood on her hand, and it was like she seen the shooter, and the shooter came to her and said, "You ready to die?" And just see her just screaming and crying, and it was just hurt me, and we all was just real scared.
We were real scared.
Several students saying they jumped out of the windows when they heard gunshots. Again, the gunman was shot and killed by police. The FBI is investigating.
Okay, so that was in St. Louis, and then we have one final one in Atlanta.
People are looking for the right opportunity.
There have been 114 carjacking calls for service since the start of the year in New Orleans, according to Metropolitan Crime Commission President Rafael Goyeneche. He says that's a 307% increase since 2019. That year, NOPD saw record low crime numbers.
Carjackings were barely a blip on the radar screen.
That has changed. Goyeneche believes the pandemic is partly to blame.
The people that were committing armed robberies didn't have their usual prey available because people weren't on foot. So they shifted to cars.
He says homicides are also up with 77 so far this year. That's a 51% increase since last year. But those numbers have been climbing since 2019 when New Orleans saw the lowest murder total in nearly 50 years. Goyeneche credits proactive policing at that time.
We can't put all of our eggs in just responding to calls for service because that means a crime's already been committed. They have to be proactive about it. They need to identify the Tyrone Steeles that are out there in the community that are responsible for a disproportionate amount of the violent crime that we've been experiencing now for 3 years.
18-year-old Tyrone Steele was arrested 2 weeks ago and has been called one of New Orleans' most violent offenders. He was booked in 4 murders. Goyeneche believes there are only a few violent offenders committing the majority of crimes.
Him off the streets now means that he's not there to commit additional crimes.
But for now, crime is still going up as the number of NOPD officers goes down.
I'm sorry, that was in New Orleans. Let me see if this one is in Atlanta. Let's see. Nope.
Lynette, 2 lives lost in the city of Austin since Saturday.
Take that off. Sorry about that, guys. Take that off. Okay, I think that's it. All right, so you've seen a clip in Chicago, St. Louis, Boston, New Orleans, and Atlanta. What do all of these cities have in common? All of these cities have mayors that are female. All right? All female, all Democratic. Boston is ran by Michelle Wu. Michelle Wu was I believe she was the first Asian mayor that was elected to Boston, and ever since she was elected, homicide rate has gone up, and the drug use has gone up. Uh, you have a lot of drug addicts that are setting up encampments in a way that you would see it if you were in Skid Row or if you were in Kensington in Philadelphia. Um, Muriel Bowser, the mayor of DC, shootings, homicides have gone up ever since she has been in charge. All right. Tashara Jones is a mayor in St. Louis. Homicide rates have gone up. Latoya Cantrell is the mayor of New Orleans. Homicide rates have gone up ever since she was there. And in Atlanta, there's a black lady that is the mayor in Atlanta. Forget her name, but I mean, homicide rates have gone exponentially up ever since these women have been in office. New Orleans is now considered the murder capital because there are more people killed per capita in New Orleans than any other city. Why do I bring this up? Well, simple. The women that are in charge, they have something called mama's love. And the way that they run the city is not necessarily through logic, but they do it through emotions. They have to come in and rather than holding people accountable, they handle situations with sympathy. It's oh, look at these people. Look at these poor proportionate people. They're getting picked on all the time. So we need to set policies that can give them the right to destroy the city, even if I mean, we're going to put policies in place to where we can let them roam free, even if doing so would make them become detrimental, where their actions can wind up becoming detrimental to the very community that they live in. Mama's love. It's not being ran by the man who would think more logically and would deter the action. No, it's ran by mama's love. And we all know that mama's love will always trump over accountability because when the one thing that women would hate to do is to hold so-called victims accountable or not even victims, they call them disproportionate people. And this is the reason why you're seeing the things that you're seeing today. Women in charge. Think about it. Okay? Um in a city like Boston, which is which at the time, prior to her I mean, coming into office as mayor, Boston for the most part was a safe city, a safe, clean city. Guess what? As long as she's in charge, Boston will look like Los Angeles. I promise you. Boston will look just like Los Angeles. It's a shame too because I was in Boston what about let's say 3 years ago. No, 4 years ago. Yeah, I remember going to Boston about 4 years ago, and Boston is a clean. I mean, it was a nice, clean city. Now they're holding on enchantments. I mean, now they're holding encampments there, and this is and now you're going to start to see what you would see in Los Angeles and in Philadelphia to occur also in Boston. Deshaun, nice for you to join in. joining to the show. I appreciate it, sir. But yes, this is the very thing that that has been happening, not just in Boston, but in other cities such as Chicago, Atlanta, St. Louis, New Orleans. And what is the main is I mean and what type of solutions do they try to bring? Well, nothing much. I mean, it's pretty much they bring in the same type of talking points that they speak about all the time. It's all about what 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 we need to do to deter the action as opposed to holding these very people accountable. Now, granted, um, the mayors play a major role. I mean, the mayors play a role, but the justice system also plays a role as well. The very judges who constantly keep letting these people out time and time and time and time and time again also play a role in in these people making the community as dangerous as it is. But the policies start first. And you notice that the mayors, none of these mayors put in policies to deter criminal activity. If anything, they encourage it. I mean, the mayor Michelle Wu doesn't really want to deter drug use because she calls drug use another thing. She calls those very people that are living on the streets um, homeless people that are in a homeless crisis that they need to um, that they need to put in more um, housing. I mean, to put in more housing projects or put in more housing so that these very people um, can be able to can be able to continue to go out and live and do the very things that they're continuing to do. I mean, she's not. I mean, she's not deterring the action. All she's doing is enabling it. So she's being a champion for drug users. Let me see what's going on. This person looks like this looks like spam right here. So we're gonna block this user. Okay, perfect. But that's the thing. You know what I mean? So, do you guys agree that women leadership is needed? Do you think that women do you think it's within the nature of a woman to lead? I mean, based on the examples that you see here, I mean, it wouldn't be within the best interest to have a woman lead because it's not really within the nature of a woman to lead because a woman leads with mother's love. And these women don't necessarily have to be mothers, but it's the mother instinct that they have within them that makes them want to handle things in a mother's nature. All right. Slap on the wrist, showing empathy to drug addicts. I don't know about you guys, but drug addiction is mainly a choice. I mean, yes, people can be addicted to drugs, but the person also made a choice to use those drugs. The person, and then by him using those drugs, the person made a choice to want to do things to obtain those drugs. And a lot of times it's the illegal way of doing things. These people also choose to live on the streets and to set up area and set up in areas and make the area look like an eyesore. These are all choices. But as um as city officials, these people have a responsibility to the people. So this is the very thing that should be addressed. Let's look at this guy right here. Rambo. Okay. Rambo, just to let you know, um, number one, I am not your N-word. All right. And you can't use that type of language on my platform. So we are going to put you in time. Actually, you know what? Let's just block you. Yeah, you can go. Okay. Um, but yes, I mean these are the very things that needs to be addressed. And keep in mind, I don't know why this guy keeps coming up. Hold on 1 second. Okay. Yeah. So these are the very things that you guys need to keep in mind when seeing these people, watching them in action, because because these these are the very things that if these people happen to have their term come up, these are the very things that you're going to have to keep in mind. Do you think women leadership? Do you think you're in better hands with women leadership? KBM, how are you doing, sir? I appreciate you. Thank you for tuning into the show. But I bring this up. I bring this up to bring up a point. I mean, to bring up an important point, because what do you think women? I mean, what do you think women could possibly do on their own that has made a positive impact in society? I mean, a woman wouldn't be able to do anything without the leadership, without the guidance of a man. So to put a woman in a leadership role where she's in charge of the entire city, and then to have this happen, I mean, if you think that that's what's right for you, then go for it. You know what I mean? Continue to vote these people in, um, but just remember, whatever whatever you do, whether you choose to vote for these people, or whether you choose not to vote for these people, if these people wind up running your country, you cannot you cannot sit back and complain about them, about these very people running your country, because in the end, you get what you deserve. All right, you get what you vote for. So you guys have some decisions to make. All right, I don't know if if the very people that are standing, as a matter of fact, as a matter of fact, um, what did I want to say? You know, women leadership in these very cities. I mean, for instance, let's take Chicago for instance. Chicago has the highest homicide rate in the country. All right, Chicago has the most homicides, um, within a big metropolitan city. All right, they lead the city in the most homicides in the country. The only other city, I mean, the only other city that's behind them would be Philadelphia. But this city has the most homicides, and they're wondering what the issue is. Well, Think about it. They elected a radical black Democratic lesbian. What do you think was going to happen to your city? Of course, your city was going to go in disarray. All right. Female leadership has proven that it's not as strong as people will want it to be. It has failed in so many ways. Um, Everything that deters a city, whether it's crime, whether it's finances, have all been compromised due to female leadership, aka mother's love. The last thing you want in anyone leading within or any type of leadership that you have in your city, the last thing you need is mother's love. You need to hold people, you need someone that can hold people accountable. And women cannot do that because women like to lead with their emotions than to lead with logic. Just keep that in mind. You know what I mean? Um uh, let's see what KBM said. Their impact is lowering up makeup on their face. That's many women contributions to society. That's for sure. I definitely agree with that. And then here's Deshaun. Some women are okay in leadership. For most, a lot of women in leaderships tend to have motherly emotional attachments. Now that's true. And Deshaun, you do make a good point about that. For instance, you have Carrie Lake, who is running for governor in Arizona. The very talking points that she brings up seems to lean towards actually dealing with the major issues that her constituents address to her. You know what I mean? Which is which is inflation and crime and worrying about their children being indoctrinated into critical race theory and the rest, and the list goes on and on and on. You know what I mean? She's actually trying to address those issues. So um in that case, obviously, that will be a person that you will want to that mean that you should be able to vote for. In the end, you should vote for the very people that have your best interest at hand, and the very people that are willing to uphold your rights as US citizens. All right. And Carrie Lake seems like she foots the bill. Also, she's also looking to debate her opponent, who is a Democrat, who is the complete opposite of her. But for some reason, her opponent doesn't want to debate her on any of these issues. So you also, I mean, and by the way, her opponent is a female as well. So I love Carrie Lake. So exactly, you know what I mean. She would be a woman that that would fit the exception of what we know about women leadership. She definitely doesn't fit the bill of Michelle Wu, Lori Lightfoot, um, Maury Bowser, Tashara Jones, and Latoya Cantrell. Absolutely not, because she's actually looking to want to meet the needs of the very people that she knows will elect her into power. But again, it takes a special person to want to be a public servant, because you have to put yourself first before. I mean, I'm sorry, I said put yourself first. You have to put your constituents first before you, and that's a big thing to give up. And women women naturally are selfish. They care more about wanting to feed their ego as opposed of feeding the right thing to do. Think about it. All right? In the book of Genesis, God told Eve, eat any of the fruit in the in the garden of Eden except the fruit in the middle. For if you eat it, you will die. These were strict commands that God gave Eve. And what did Eve do? She thought she was bigger than God, or at least she allowed herself to believe that she was bigger than God because she allowed the serpent to talk her into eating the forbidden fruit. All right. Now, whether or not you want to say that she did it out of, now whether or not you want to state that, well, there's no evidence that she did it out of emotion, that's fine, but she definitely wasn't using logic because logic told her that she should listen to her master, and instead she listened to another person that is not of God. She trusts the devil more than she trusts God. I appreciate it. I appreciate that, Sean. Yep, you said the same thing I said. Absolutely, 100%. But this is the thing that you need to listen to. You know what I mean? And I wish more people would take that into consideration. All right. Yes, we live in America. Okay. Yes, we also live in a society now where men and women are given the same opportunity to lead the country. But you have to look at it biologically and biblically. Um, should women be in positions of leadership? All right. Now, I brought up Carrie Lake. Carrie Lake is a rare exception to the rule. But right now, you have an example of 5 women that are running cities, not counties, cities. All right. I mean, granted, they're not running states, but they're running cities, big cities, and they're running them to the ground. Cities like Boston, you know, um, Chicago, Atlanta, St. Louis, New Orleans. I mean, these are prominent tourist sites, or they should be prominent tourist sites. But with the rising uptick of crime, this is what deters people to not want to visit these cities. You have to take this into consideration before you decide to vote for women leadership. Remember, biologically, naturally, women lead with their emotions and not by logic. Because it's not really in the nature for a woman to lead, it's within the woman's nature to follow. Okay. So, with that being said, I told you guys that this was going to be brief. I wasn't really going to get in. I wasn't really going to prolong this. But with that being said, um, I appreciate you guys for tuning in and keep this in mind. All right, especially considering that we're having midterms coming up. A lot of the female politician seats are up. If you live in a city that is ran by a female politician, and you know for a fact that she is being guided by a mother's love, and that she is trying to give the constituents mother's love, then you know what you need to do as a constituent, and you also know what you need to do to warn your other constituents of this person. All right. You guys know what you have to do. All right. We've gone through 2 years of the progressives hijacking our country, and this is the time to take our country back. We can do it with the House and the Senate, and then hopefully, and then once we do, I truly believe that the great white hope Donald Trump will then announce his his opportunity or his interest in wanting to run again and become our president once again in 2024 and to make America great again. All right. But we have to do it. We have to be the voice of reason. We have to come in and we have to invoke our right to vote for the people who are coming to to address our needs, because right now it seems as if the constituents, I mean, I'm sorry, I keep saying the constituents, that's one of us. It seems as if the public servants, they seem to care more about racism and critical race theory and all this other nonsense, and they want you to pay attention to that stuff because they don't want you to focus on the main issues that are affecting America. All right? This is the prime example of gaslighting, and we can't allow them to do that because do you notice how these liberals and these progressives, they tend to speak to the very people that are supposed to keep them in office as if we're stupid, as if we don't see what they're doing. Okay? We see now that the very item that used to be a dollar, that used to be a dollar, now it's $1.50. Now, to for the rest of us working people that make, that are in the upper middle class, we can afford it. Obviously, we don't like to pay more, but we can afford it. But what about the lower class people? What about the people that are on a fixed income that were budgeting on that item to be a dollar? Now they are priced out of that very item that they need. All right. The very Democrats that claim that they care for the lower and the working class. And now you see it. And a lot of them are women. Trump 2024. Yes, the great white hope. The great white hope is coming back in 2024. All right. But it starts with taking back the House and the Senate. And we can do that November 8th. And then once we do that, then we can focus on the executive branch and having the great white hope come back to the Oval Office. God knows we need him. MAGA all day. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. I'm voting in person. And yes, please vote in person. I'm voting in person on election day in California. Yes, please do so. Well, considering the fact that you're in California, it may not make a difference. But even still, make it count. All right. Democrat mascot should be a gaslight, not the donkey. That's for sure. That's for sure. Honestly, I think even some of the liberals um are are realizing that a lot of this is too much. And I think the main reason why is because they care more about the safety. They realize now that their safety is being compromised in a lot of cities that at one time were safe cities. But this is what happens when you have female leaderships that care more about playing politics with their lives as opposed of doing things that will best meet the interest of the constituents of the very cities or counties that they serve. Amazing, guys. This was a great show. I appreciate you guys. And with that being said, this is The Conservative, and I'm signing out. Have a blessed day, guys. I appreciate for everyone that tuned into my show. I appreciate it so much. Thank you guys so much. And until next week, all right, have a blessed day. And may God have mercy on this country. God bless America. Amazing.